Yo, what up?
Hey, Bismo, how are
Hey
you?
Bisma.
What's going on?
I think
Oh, it's
Eyebrow
Bust
has a.
Ups. Yo,
Hey, what's up, dude?
recognize that voice.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
It's time to fight,
Um, uh,
dude.
no,
Throw
I've
some
not come to fight.
bones.
I came to
No, I've
fight.
not come
I
to
came to
fight. I've
fight.
come to learn.
Bismo,
What's up?
why are capybara fish?
Capybara fish?
Oh yeah, why are they?
Capybara,
Yeah.
Brazil.
Yeah, I
Is this
have
a
no
quiz?
idea.
Is this a quiz?
No, this is like I don't know. This is like a random fact I learned about.
Capybara aren't fish. They're actual mammals that look like rats. Capybara. They're from South
Yeah,
America.
but
Yeah,
like
that's
the
what I
Pope
thought
said
too.
they're fish though.
Huh?
Oh,
Apparently.
really? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
he's getting pretty old and senile, so you know.
This was a while ago. This is let me see.
If it was a while ago, then all I have to say is, I mean, there's other instances where Pope Francis has demonstrated himself to have some
In
brain,
seven,
you know.
1784.
1784?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, okay.
Wait, what? Wait, did someone say something wrong once? What? That's crazy.
Yeah. Apparently when they were like, you know, all going to Brazil or whatever to spread the good word. They're like, "Oh, can we have capybara for Lent?" And they said, "Yes, it's a fish." They decided because it lives in water, technically.
Oh,
Was that in
interesting.
1784? Did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, so okay. Maybe there's
He,
a translation error. Is that
no, I
possible?
mean they just probably didn't know what it was. It's
Yeah,
like a new discovery.
that's what I mean. Translation error. They're like, "Oh, capybara," and they give them something like, "Oh, oh, capybara, thank you."
Are they gonna? Are they gonna? You think they'll ever change it back?
What are you trying to get
Who?
at?
I don't know. Yeah. Are they gonna? They think they'll ever change it back to like, no, you're not allowed to have anymore because it's not
Wait,
because
is
because like
capybara now part of Christian dogma?
no, it's not
No,
part of
I think
Chickman
that's what his point
dogma.
is. I
It's
think
not
Well,
his
part of
point
Christian
is
that's what I'm
dogma.
asking. Like
can the
you're
Pope
saying,
like
like,
make an error or something like that?
Huh?
yeah.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
Huge
It's
error
not.
because
I
the
don't think
Pope
it's like
asked
a.
for fucking capybara
wait,
fish.
can the Pope misinterpret something someone said to him?
I
No,
mean, it
Ever?
I
depends
want to
what
know if he
happened.
can, if it, like, how strict are the rules, like, with, like,
The rules
fish,
about
with
what
this,
though?
these,
He's referring to
about
papal
what's allowed to
infallibility,
eat,
so
what you're allowed to eat, and what you're not allowed to eat. Like, how strict are they?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll defer to someone else.
yeah,
I'm not
seems like a
sure.
pretty silly question to begin with. It's one of them gotcha questions.
Well,
It's
I'm not
just a
sure it is.
silly,
I
it's a
think
silly fact.
it is
That's
a
why.
silly question. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, no,
it's a
no,
question
that's
like,
pretty.
hold on, it's a
It's
question.
pretty
What
cool.
is a fish?
I
Like
guess what I was getting at is I thought it was such a silly question that it wouldn't surprise me with the current pope and his mental
to be
faculties.
fair, like I'm
Like
struggling, bro.
to
I'm
make
struggling with
Are
the
you,
current pope.
are you like said Venka, said Vic, the people
no,
who
no,
don't believe
no,
the Pope is, okay. There you go.
no.
You know,
But
those
here,
people,
yeah, I
those
mean,
are weird
here's
people.
the thing: leaders are not beyond reproach. Here, like I'll post it to you. Like I mean, like like this basic shit. 1 second. Proverbs 28. And we'll go to like 21. Bam.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not like a theological thing, you know?
He
So,
who
like,
misleads the upright into evil will fall into his own pit, but the blameless will have a goodly inheritance. So, like, faith in God does not depend on the leader, right? But
yeah.
clearly, Proverbs is about the wisdom of what it takes to be a good leader, right? But this presupposes that the proverb probably wouldn't have to be said if having good leaders was just a default, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you were curious, just about like what Catholic Church means by authority, infallibility, inerrancy, all that stuff, we can talk about that kind of stuff, but it's all like technical stuff. So,
Well, that's kind of what I'm hung up on. Like I've been an Orthodox catechumen for a while, and obviously it's kind of foreign because the last 1,000 years the Western Empire has been the Roman Church, but there are things about the Roman Church that I can't
Reconcile.
marry. Yeah, exactly. Canonically, especially like yeah, papal infallibility, especially Vatican One, but Vatican Two kind of fucks me up morally. Um, yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at. You know what I mean?
So
Like Vatican Two is absolutely cooked, essentially.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, not all of it, because like like
I,
when
I'm
people,
not saying all. I'm
I'm
saying,
not
but if some is cooked, then therefore it kind
correct.
of disproves the
Yeah,
papal
that's.
infallibility claim, which is there's a whole lot of theological you know
Are you familiar
yeah,
with Jay Dyer bus stops?
I'm familiar with him. Yep.
All right, so Jay Dyer was a Catholic, and then he converted to
He was also a Calvinist. Oh, he's primarily a
correct.
Calvinist
That's
first.
right,
Yeah.
and then he became a
He
Catholic.
he followed like the logical
Correct.
yeah, he went from
That
Calvinist to Catholic to Orthodox. Yeah.
that's why I
Good to
consider
know.
Catholicism the most intellectually honest version of Christianity. Because
Catholicism? Like,
yeah, yeah,
what do you mean? Do you mean Roman Catholicism or
yes.
okay?
Because, here's the thing, right? It's just like the paradox of can one choose, right? The parents, right? Like, can you choose which religion you're born into, so to speak, or have exposure to? I mean,
You mean theologically or like as a human?
existentially, right?
You can
Like,
choose anything, right? We
yeah,
have
so,
free
so
will.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, but what I'm
sure.
trying to get at is that you can't control, right? Like, what kind of exposure you're going to have of Christianity. Blessed are you if you happen to be born within Catholicism. But for the vast majority of people, that's just simply not the case, right? So the reason why I would consider Catholicism the most intellectually honest is apart from the historical reasons, which are demonstrable from the evidence that we have, and the accounts that we have, sources, secondary sources, primary sources, whatever. Um, what I see like happen with a lot of Protestants is those Protestants, quote unquote, or those Christian people that start to take their faith more seriously and start asking philosophical or metaphysical questions, ultimately leads them to the sources to question. And I believe that that's what that's all about. To start asking
Interesting.
those critical questions about like, oh, okay, well then, how does our faith answer this question? How does that faith answer that question? And the more and more they dig through those sources, what they'll find is that people in early Christendom, so to speak, wrestled with these same questions, right? They had their own answers at that time. It doesn't completely answer the challenges that we have now, but there's some uniformity, at least within philosophical thought or critical logic, right? That they grappled with those same questions back then. And that's what I mean by apart from the historical reasons, yeah, Catholicism to me is the most intellectually honest, quote unquote, version of Christianity.
Can I ask you some questions about that?
Well, I mean, bust ups, is there anything? Well, we were
Hello?
kind of on a separate point, Grevin, but
Yeah, well, you guys just finished it.
uh, would you be able to hold that question for 2 more minutes?
Sure. Well, let's see what you asked.
And then we can return to it. Okay, so bust ups. To your earlier question about like where you're at right now in terms of your Greek orthodoxy and how difficult or challenging it may be to try to resolve your current questions
Hello,
or
hello. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, my mic cut off. Yep.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm back.
where you might be with resolving issues with like what does a papacy mean and papal authority. You said you're aware of Jay Dyer. I posted a video of his.
Yes, yes, I'm aware of Jay Dyer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah,
video of his from like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, so it's early, right? So
yes, yeah.
it's consistent, right? Like his understanding is consistent, but this is where like he kind of like goes through like the whole the
But
paradox or the
yeah,
apparent contradiction he sees in the church and its functioning today,
yes,
right?
yes.
And so for him, I understand the relevance of his criticism that if now, right, we have this situation where after Vatican II, the Pope, we have all these different levels of papal authority that we have to like assent to or, refer back to. And then whenever the Pope says something or the magisterium says something, we have to go through
Mm,
some other body to interpret what the Pope actually or the church actually said. Then he's like,
mm-hmm.
what the hell is the point of the character of papal infallibility in the first place?
Yeah.
I
Right. I
understand
got
this.
you.
And I mean, for all intents and purposes, like I agree with this sentiment. You know what I mean? Um,
Okay. Yep.
but yeah,
Gotcha.
if you haven't watched this video, I think this would be an important video. And
If I
then, yeah,
can I give you like 2 points? Firstly,
sure.
so this video you told me it's from like 5 years ago
Uh-huh.
from Jedi. Yep. So he only got baptized in 2019. So it might be 6 months to a year after, right? So he could be wrong there, correct? Like if you're looking at a 5 6 year old video, like I wouldn't take that as like a valid interpretation of what Jedi represents.
No, I mean,
Secondly, sorry.
there's other. The reason why this video stuck out to me is because he's actually pretty consistent in his critique. So then
So
there
you
are
agree the papacy is circular?
there are newer videos that he puts out, you know what I mean? That I've watched that, where people try to challenge him on his understanding of papacy, or they'll call in and like he demonstrates right in that debate. And I can
Yeah,
show you like another video that's 6 months
yeah,
long, so I can pair it up with this one, right? Where he
yeah.
literally takes him through and questions him on the same things. Like, hey, do you even
Hmm.
know? Like, there's like a Catholic professor who will call in, right? And then start,
Yeah.
trying to rationalize basically how all this stuff fits together. And then Jay Dyer's just basically picking them apart. But at the end of the day, like, do I feel like the professor was able to correctly represent, Catholic understanding of magisterial authority and like its different levels and all this? It gets pretty esoteric, but
It does,
no, I
bro,
don't.
bro. It does get
But at the
esoteric.
same,
That's my whole point.
yeah,
Like,
but at the same time, you know, I think Jay Dyer is
I think
predisposed.
he's genuine though.
I
I
mean,
think he's
yeah,
genuine. I think he is
that
genuine.
that
Like,
that
like
that
you,
that
you
that's
think
kind of
you're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
genuine.
yeah, yeah. That's why to me his video from 5 years ago is just as relevant because I see
It's not
him.
relevant, bro. But I promise you, because if you took a video of me from 5 years ago when I was an atheist, you'd be like, "Oh, look at bust ups. He doesn't believe in God." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
What?
we can grow, we can learn.
No, what I'm saying is that what makes Jay Dyer like some of his sentiment and critiques genuine is that he's pretty consistent with even things that he said 5 years ago. And what I'm saying, what he says, and how he has
Is it
difficulty in
possible
understand.
for someone to be wrong but convicted in their
But the thing
wrongness?
is I don't think
Sorry.
he's wrong in this video to hold this sentiment. I don't agree
M-
with his
It doesn't
quote,
matter what
quote
you think. He
I
might
don't
think
I
he's
don't
wrong.
agree. No, that's fine, but
Okay.
with I don't agree with his interpretation,
To be fair, I
right,
haven't
of how
watched
the
it.
church
Yeah. Okay.
operates.
Yeah, I got
But
you. Yeah.
the thing is like to me is genuine, and he employs. So I'm gonna pair it up with like a video, right? Like
Yeah, but to be
Jay
fair, has
Dyer,
he was
Catholic
this video that
professor.
you've shared, was he like an atheist or like a agnostic, or I'm not sure.
So here's this from 5 months ago, right? Where he clipped this from like one of his debate streams or call-in streams. Catholic professors
Catholic Professor
meltdown.
Meltdown, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like I actually watched this video and then that had me like dig in a little bit more. Rather than just take what Jay Dyer believes from just one clip. You know what I mean? Now I'm interested. Okay, now I'm gonna go in. You know what I mean? If Jay Dyer thought that there was something like really erroneous and inconsistent from what he said 5 years ago, and like how he's talking about the same issues now, he probably would have deleted the video or modified it. The fact that he hasn't, I'm just gonna assume, because and upon review of his older video, it's pretty consistent criticism that he holds. And the thing is
No,
what I'm saying is
I
is
I, I got
because
your
of the
point.
nature of the esoteric nature of like the Vatican II basically, like I understand, I agree with a lot of his sentiment. I do.
So what's the problem?
What do you mean? What's the problem?
Like, where do you agree with a lot of his sentiment? So where do you disagree?
His
Essentially,
conclusion.
what what is his conclusion that you disagree with? That's my point.
So
Like,
I mean, I can agree that the sentiment with the sentiment that it does appear to be circular, but I don't think it's contradictory. Now, this is I'm not saying that the papacy
yeah.
is circular. It's not. I don't believe that it's
But
self-referential.
all right, I'm not. Hold on.
But
Let me take a step back. I'm here in good faith. I'm not. I'm
yeah.
not going to argue Jay Dye's faith because I'm here. I've been to Orthodox Church. I'm leaning towards Roman Catholicism, and so I'm kind of struggling. Every night I
Mhm.
pray. I'm trying to find which church. Right. I don't want to get caught up in the online sort of. It's the online dogma, essentially. But I want to be a good Catholic. That's all I'm trying to do, right?
Mhm.
And so I'll jump in this chat and they'll be like, oh, Orthodox, here's their fallacies. And then I'll go to an Orthodox chat. They're like, oh, here's the Roman fallacies. But
Yeah.
I'm literally here coming from an atheist, trying to come to church. And it's very hard for me to try to find the right church. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And here's the problem. You're never I mean, okay, I'm not trying no, I totally get what you're saying.
No,
Um
no, I want you to say what you're going to say, but I just wanted to give you my perspective. Like, I
well,
was an atheist for 10 years, and I'm like, oh,
and
maybe
the
I should go
thing
to
is, bust
Orthodox
ups,
Church. And they're like, no, 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 they're fucking, they're Eastern. You should go to Romans. And I go to Roman Church, and then I hear people saying, no, they're all heretics, and it's not the real church. And I'm like, well, maybe I should give up.
so that's the thing, like bust ups, what you describe is I can relate to those sentiments as well. Because I have those same challenges even now.
Mm.
There are Catholic churches, that I go to, and the priest, like I know like he has some like progressive bias, and now that I've like gone through my own like formal training and formal studies,
Mm-hmm.
like I've had exposure to like actual like systematics, biblical interpretation, history, ecclesiology, all this stuff.
Oh.
So now that I mean now that I had some formal exposure, I'm even more critical now of like a lot of the
Yeah,
views that we have in
and
certain
that's my
churches.
sorry.
But at the end of the day, right? If I were to base my faith, right, in Jesus, based on what's coming from the pulpit, or all the abuses that are happening, the corruptions in the church, you see what I mean? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, practically speaking, I shouldn't be a Christian then, right? But that's not, first of all, that's not the reason why I'm a Christian. Second, why would I be a Catholic rather than just, a meandering, wandering Christian? Is because, again, historically, intellectually, Catholicism is just the most intellectually honest. Now, that might not be a satisfying answer for you. Me personally, and this is like a spiritual thing, right? There's like a saying, I forgot which saint says it to another. I believe it's like Saint John of the Cross. I'm probably wrong on that. But when it was like when somebody asked one of these saints, so, is there a theologian you could recommend to me or a spiritual director or whatever? And the response was, well, if you're looking at me as like a spiritual director to try to like guide you in some way, I would rather you learn from a theologian or learn the theology of the church, Christian philosophy, so to speak, because a spiritual director can tell you what worked for him or her, but they can't tell you what's going to work for you. What the church can do is tell you what is the correct thing to believe and hold as true. You get what I mean? So
Yep.
it's that uniformity, right? And consistency in church teaching, hopefully that will last the test of time. That comports with the same ratio and active, you know, powers, so to speak, that each individual has, right? Just being like created in the
Brother.
image and likeness of God, that is going
I'm
to
already
comport.
there though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
You're explaining everything I agree with. My contention
okay. Sorry.
is with the no, it's all right.
Didn't mean to bloviate.
No. Sorry, I'm Australian, so I get loud and obnoxious.
No, you're good.
I agree with you. My contention is, but like honestly, I went from atheist to literally learning about the history of the church, and then I learned the history of the church. It was one church for 1,000 years.
Right.
Until 1054, and there was a schism, right?
So the 11th century. Yep.
Yeah. And I hear one church say we stayed the same, and then I see another church which did their own thing apparently, like they stayed kind of the same. And then we had the Protestant Reformation.
Yep. This is all
So
European history.
it's all, of course, it's European history, but as a genuine man trying to find Christ, it's hard,
Yeah.
What's
especially
right?
nowadays. Especially nowadays.
Yeah,
And the
especially now.
Vatican is ambiguous and confusing as hell. So is Vatican II.
Absolutely. I'm not all in for Vatican. I'm not all in for it. I went to a local Bible church, and they were singing like Justin Bieber songs. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not real. So I just I jump around, and so I went to an Orthodox church, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
And
the
I
liturgy's pretty
went
good.
to my local, yeah.
And then you go to the Catholic Church, and they're like halfway in between the Justin
Yeah,
Bieber
they're like
songs
halfway
and
between like a Protestant and
Oh.
Orthodox. Like they say the words, but it's like
Yeah.
they're kind of gay. They're like, yeah.
Yep. Man, it's a tough time, and that's
It
the
is,
thing.
dude.
Like, even me as a Catholic, I can't hold it against, like, it's hard for me to try to defend the church or,
Yeah.
speak of the church as
Yeah, I'm not
as I
asking you
could, like,
to,
even 20,
honestly, but
30 years
yeah.
ago. But, yeah, I'm assuming the question is gonna go like something. I can only answer for you from the perspective of what keeps me a Catholic despite all of this nonsense,
Yeah.
right?
What's
And
holding me back is the I'll be honest, it's papal supremacy.
mhm.
That's probably the main thing, to be honest.
So, I mean,
There's
are you like interested in learning more about like what the history has to say about this and why
I'm
Catholics, you know, intellectually speaking, see that consistent tradition throughout all of history from literally from, you know,
from
the
Peter.
Bible itself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All the way
Um
throughout all the centuries, regardless of the East and West
yeah.
schism. Are you interested in hearing those things?
I'm halfway through RCIA, so I'm legit on my way to be baptized as a Catholic.
Let me give you something that RCIA is not going to do for you.
I'm
And what
listening
I
to
can
Father
do is
Mike's catechism in a year, like yeah.
instead of going into the weeds at different centuries and like going through like, oh, these were the debates about the filioque, right? And
But
like
do you
look what
think
they did.
they mean like, dude? I'm I'm a history nerd. Like, I don't want to get into my how do I?
Go ahead.
So I was an atheist for like 15 years. Like science, history. Like I knew all the answers, right? My mum the whole time was like, you need to come back to God. You need to, what? Like as the mum does. Oh, you need to believe in God. You need to believe in God. I was like, okay. And I said, if God
So
loves
you're
me, He will know how to convince me, right?
yeah, and it's probably because your mom prayed for you so much, and
Yes,
then it got to your stupid ass stubborn head,
absolutely.
and then God
So,
put some. And so, I
so
mean, you
God,
could. I mean, clearly you couldn't have been praying for your own conversion the whole time.
I
You
didn't
you
pray at
stubborn
all because I was an
mule.
atheist. I didn't give a
Yeah,
fuck. I knew
you're
everything,
just
right?
being a freaking mule.
I was an idiot. I was a teenage idiot. And so, when I was 30-ish, I actually learnt about the history of the church. and it convinced me. And I have a kind of there's a couple of personal experiences I don't want to talk about spiritually, but ultimately it was like I was convinced. So from there, it convinced me to be Catholic, essentially. And now I'm weighing Eastern versus Western.
So apart from the aesthetics, it sounds like since you're a history buff, the whole papacy thing is still pretty important to you, huh?
The papacy is the thing that's making me mostly
Okay.
reject Roman Catholicism. Yeah, correct.
Well, I know you've mentioned this in past conversations that we've had. Do you mind if we spend like this conversation and I can take you I want to start from the beginning first because there's multiple different points where we can interact and engage on this particular question, right? Because it literally spans like 2000 years. But if I can, I'd like to focus like with like the scripture itself. And then we can kind of do together like both like an eisegesis real quick and then a hermeneutic. Um, trying to do so we're going to focus more on like an internal critique within the scripture itself, and then from that what I'm hoping is with that kind of a foundation, then whatever we're going to come across in this conversation tonight or future conversations um, on this particular topic, like with you here having those questions, it'll give some foundational context, right, for any future discussion that historically has happened in the church regarding the papacy. So,
Yeah, I
e-
understand your question, but in the first 1,000 years of the church, there was no pope. There were popes, but there was no pope.
so that's what I was going to get to is, so the technical answer is this, right? Um, the See of Peter was regarded from the beginning, right?
Yeah, I know. I understand that.
As,
Yeah.
right, as holding certain privileges. Okay, so even from the First
Yeah.
Ecumenical Council, and you're not going to find so I'm just clarifying points that even Eastern Orthodox agree to, right?
Yes.
And so
Correct.
this is the seat of Peter, as it's referred. It was at one point in Jerusalem, and then obviously it went to Rome. So when Peter finally went to Rome and was crucified there upside down, that's where he died, and so then the Bishop of Rome took on the seat of Peter, so to speak. Okay. So that's the historical thread, but so papal primacy has always existed and also recognized by the Eastern Patriarchs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you
When you say
know,
primacy, though,
uh-huh,
might mean something different.
correct. Papal
Yeah.
primacy, there is a nuanced distinction here, ecclesiologically. There's a distinction of papal primacy versus papal
Primacy is
supremacy.
fine. It's like first among equals, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So what the
That's,
Eastern
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
Orthodox say that they have an issue with. So, like, ever since the 1050s or 11th century, the Eastern Orthodox have always claimed, right, or to have these grievances about papal jurisdiction. So, this is what makes it pretty interesting, okay, and
Of course. Yeah.
curious. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Is
Sorry.
that historically speaking, right, papal supremacy, the character of infallibility wasn't defined definitively by the Roman Catholics until the 18th century, right?
There was
Or the
no
19th
even
century,
concept of
1800s.
infallibility. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
There was no concept of infallibility.
Okay, now here's the
Yeah.
problem, okay? Then then why is the central grievance of the East and West schism about whether or not the Pope has universal jurisdiction if he wasn't already exerting universal jurisdiction?
Because he wasn't.
So that's part of the
The Roman Pope, the Roman Primarch, was never exerting, jurisdiction.
Okay. So we're gonna have to go. Okay. So at first,
Were there
I
cases where
hold
he
on. You
did?
keep cutting me off, sir.
No,
Seriously. So you
I'm on
keep
your side. I'm talking. It's okay.
so you keep interjecting, right? Like uh with these kind of generalized claims,
No, it's
right?
not a debate.
And well,
We're
I
just
mean,
having
no,
a talk.
but this is what I mean. Like you're gonna come with certain predispositions, right? And it's okay to have those predispositions because you're
Dude,
hearing
I'm
them from
just
other people,
talking to
right?
you.
Yeah. So like at first I wanted to have a much more like fundamental discussion regarding the internal like critique within the scriptures itself. But it seems like you're more interested in getting into the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of the history, right?
No,
So
I'm
if we
I'm
want to
more
get into the
interested,
cold, hard, cynical facts about
brother,
history,
brother, brother,
then we
brother.
can have that conversation, and we're gonna go there.
I'm not going to debate you. I'm here in good
No, no,
faith. I promise.
we're not debating at all. Okay. So hold on. I have to find this real quick. Okay. Oh my goodness. Um, are you aware of the First Ecumenical Council?
Yep.
Okay. So in the canons there's a specific line that says, that the metropolitan sees, one of the canons reads that the metropolitan sees that are supposed to be established in Alexandria, and I forgot the other two metropolitans, were
Sure.
supposed to be modeled, right, after the privileges that the Bishop of Rome holds. So they're already
Yep.
presupposing, right? But here's the thing, right? No matter how the Eastern Orthodox try to interpret it away, you can't interpret away that what is presupposed in that particular canon is that the fathers there already took it implicit, like it's a rule of inference, that the right model for any other jurisdiction in the church is going to be after the seat of Peter, the metropolitan see of Peter. So even from I mean, that's literally, right, a jurisdictional protocol, normative protocol that is being universalized within the First Ecumenical Council for the formation of other metropolitan sees. It doesn't mean that, like, it's not, the rule of inference is not that the metropolitan sees are going to have the same privileges as Rome. Rather, they're modeled after it. Those are the exact words. So that's the Roman Catholic argument, is that even from the First Ecumenical Council, it presupposes papal jurisdiction, universal jurisdiction, normative protocol in relation to the seat of Peter. So even though papal supremacy doesn't have to be defined until like almost 2,000 years later, clearly the only thing that matters is, does Rome believe that matters? So then you're going to get all this tit for tat back and forth. Well, the Pope wasn't present at every ecumenical council. Well, upon examination, that's not true either. Pope had some sort of representative
But
or
no
papal
one's
legates
arguing
there.
that, by the way.
Right. But what I'm saying is that it eventually leads down these roads where you're looking at certain technicalities of these things. The question is did Rome believe that it had this universal jurisdiction? And in multiple
That's
cases it does.
but that's
And
irrelevant whether Rome believes.
correct. Because no, think about the canon I just mentioned to you from the First Ecumenical
I
Council.
I'm reading it right now. Yeah.
So the idea here, right, is that yes, people recognized at that time all the other metropolitan dioceses or other patriarchs, whatever you want to call them, the other bishops recognized papal primacy, right? That he's first among equals.
Sure.
But
Yeah, that's fine. I agree with that. Yeah.
what the church has said, and historically, what we see is that the meaning of what papal primacy is, it's not just symbolic reference, right? Clearly, even in the way that it's operated within the First
The First
Ecumenical
Council
Council,
of Nicaea is talking about Arianism.
papal
Arianism,
primacy. Oh,
right?
okay, all right. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to pull it up for you.
I'm reading it right now. The First Council wasn't about determining whether the Pope of Rome should be the Primarch. It was more about Arianism, trying to define the doctrine, the canon of Christianity, right? You agree? Nicaea wasn't about who's the leader. There was no discussion about who was the Primarch. Correct?
Okay, Canon 6. So, first of all, you can't summarize. Okay,
Canon
it's
6 of
easy. So
what?
here's the
What are you
thing.
talking about?
It's easy for people to summarize. Like the first
Canon
ecumenical
6
council
of
was
what?
primarily about this. The second
I'm
ecumenical
not talking
council was
about the
primarily like
first.
this.
I'm
It's
not
not like
talking
that.
about that.
So look at Canon 6.
I'm not talking about Canon 6.
So if you look at the
Why did you
other
start talking
canons,
about it?
one of the agendas of the First Ecumenical Council was trying to establish what the metropolitan dioceses were. That was a huge pivotal issue for them because they needed a way to organize the smaller
That's fine.
synods.
Yep.
Okay,
And they
so
that
it gives those
why
provisions
did
in the
hold
canons
on.
leading up to it. But look at canon number 6.
Why did they
Look
convene
at
a
canon
council?
number 6. Why are you not? Why are
Why
you avoiding the? Why are you
I'm
avoiding the
asking
focus?
I'm asking you, why did they convene? Firstly.
There was a whole bunch of issues that they had to address. That's the
Yeah.
purpose of an ecumenical
What was the
synod.
main issue? Like I'm not it's not
It has nothing to do with the
opinion.
main issue.
Really? Okay, so the church fathers convened for like no main issue. Okay. Thanks, brother. So you can't think of one main issue that the
No,
church
you're
fathers
just
convened?
gish-galloping at this point. Bust ups?
Bro,
Like no, like
I'm not even trying to. It's not a
what
gotcha.
are you looking for? You're looking for a category to put this in?
That's Arianism. That's the answer. Arianism.
It's not just Arianism.
That was the reason for the first
No,
council.
like half of these canons have to do about what the jurisdiction of each
I'm not
metropolitan
asking about
is.
canons. I'm talking about the first council, right? You understand the difference? Why I asked you why the first council was convened. And you're like, well, blah, 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 blah. Because of Arianism, right? Okay. Gotcha. I'm not your enemy, brother. I'm your brother, okay? I'm not here to make a point. I'm here to discuss theology. Thank you.
I think you're just obtuse as a person.
Bro,
I
maybe
think you're
I
just
am.
stubborn and obtuse.
I'm not stubborn. I'm not obtuse. I'm here to be honest and open with you, but it
I don't
has
give
to
a
go
fuck
both
about that.
ways.
You wanted to go into
Yeah,
the
well,
cold
fair
facts
enough.
about
Well,
history.
fuck you,
It
man.
doesn't care about your feelings.
I'm not open
You
and
won't even
okay.
stay with the conversation. You just want to get your opinion and your point
I
across.
don't. I
Then
literally
can you keep your mouth
made
shut?
that point. You dumb motherfucker. I want to talk with you like an
What's
adult.
canon number 6?
I don't know. See?
You said
Wow,
you
that's
had the
crazy.
canons in front of you, didn't you?
I don't have all canons in front of me. No.
You said earlier, yes, I'm looking at the canons right now.
I'm looking at the first canon. I don't have all of them. See how you can be honest? Wow, man. Imagine someone on the internet that can be honest and say they don't know. Whoa.
You didn't specify that earlier. When I asked you, and I said, "Yo, do you have the canons up right now? Because we'll just go through them right now." And then you're like, "Yeah, I have them with me." And I was like, "Okay." And then every
I
single
didn't say
time
that.
I tried to go back to
I
canon
didn't say
number
that.
6, you keep detracting by
I
saying,
didn't say
"Oh, well,
that.
no, well, what was the first ecumenical council? What was the major premise? What was the purpose?" And I was like, "Well, if you actually look through the
I've never
canons,
said that.
like
You're a liar.
almost half
You're a
of
liar.
them are actually
Fake
about
news.
jurisdictional
No,
issues, right?
no.
So you just keep detracting from the actual content. So this
You
now
have
makes me
you have
question,
never.
how much of
Hold
a
on.
serious history buff are you, Bust Ups?
Like
Maybe no. This is
from
important, and the
0 to
reason why I'm
10,
so wrapped up
I'm
in
like
this, Bust
1.
Ups,
I'm 1.
yeah, I mean, this is gonna be demonstrative, Bust Ups, for how maybe for some people in the
Abysmo,
church, maybe they
relax.
don't take the history of the church
Abysmo.
seriously. Maybe that's why they created factions and schisms. Because
Hold on.
maybe they're the dumb idiots. Maybe
Abysmo.
they're the idiots of the Christian church, right? That went off on
Abysmo.
some
Chill out.
radical understanding
Holy
or
shit.
some
You're
stupid
so aggressive.
interpretation about the church itself, and then they just splintered off. That's happened through centuries. At
Are you
least the
American
Catholic
or are
Church has some
you American or
centralizing
Canadian?
guarantee, right? That at least for the Roman
Are you
Catholic Church, it's going
American
to
or
persist.
Canadian?
I'm American.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm a proud American. You're damn right. Anyways, so
I don't know why you're getting so like I'm on your side here, and all I've said is
hey,
I
this
don't
this
know.
this ain't about. Okay, okay, fine. So then, don't you
Holy
think
fuck,
instead
you're
of
so aggressive.
don't you think instead of trying to get your point across about what you know about the councils, because
I don't
listen,
have a point,
I'm
cunt.
not
All
here.
I
I'm
said
not
was I've
here.
won.
I'm not here to question your
All right,
knowledge of this stuff,
all right,
right?
buddy.
Because my
All right,
approach
buddy.
is, yo, we're just gonna start like from perspective of
Oh look. Oh
we
now
don't know anything.
Abysmo is coming back. Like, hey
Let's
man, I just want to
suspend our
chat.
disbelief. Let's go with what the document actually
The
says.
whole time I was saying I don't know. I just want to chat. Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, all of a sudden you piped up like, no, fuck you. Oh, blah, blah, blah.
So just so you know, bus ups, I've been recording the conversation. So I'll post it for you
Congratulations.
later, and I'll send it to you. And we can kind of like both go up together. So like that'll be ready for you like whenever you're ready for it. But as far as this conversation, would you like to go to the canon I'm trying to get us to reference? So we can try to be intellectually honest about
Define
like our approach to it.
canon.
So a canon is Latin for rule, and
Yep,
when we look at
correct.
when what are you just here to just test my patience or something?
Yeah.
Like what's going on here? Was that necessary?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see how like it's difficult for someone to take you seriously when you bloviate like that? I mean, maybe it's an Australian thing.
Yeah, it's cultural.
All right. So here's how Canon 6 reads, right? Just so you know, like I'm not making shit up. Like when I was trying to reference earlier and just trying to like paraphrase off the top of my head, well, it put it in this type of language. Canon 6. Let the ancient customs in Egypt, Libya, and Pentopolis prevail. That the Bishop of Alexandria have jurisdiction in all of these, since the like is customary for the Bishop of Rome also. Likewise, in Antioch and other provinces, let the churches retain their privileges, and this is to be universally understood that if anyone be made bishop without the consent of the metropolitan, the great synod has declared that such a man ought not be a bishop. If, however, 2 or 3 bishops shall, from natural love of contradiction, oppose the common suffrage of the rest, it being reasonable and in accordance with the ecclesiastical law, then let the choice of the majority prevail. Ancient epitome of Canon 6. The Bishop of Alexandria shall have jurisdiction over Egypt, Libya, Pentopolis, as also the Roman bishop over those subject to Rome. So too the Bishop of Antioch. You get this point, right?
Yeah.
So prior to the First Ecumenical Council, there was no unifying jurisdiction for any of the churches outside of Rome, right?
Agreed.
But
Yeah,
what they
of course.
did
Yeah.
was they wanted
There
to
are
set
still no unifying jurisdictions among the Orthodox. That's the whole point. Yeah.
correct, right?
Yeah.
The only one that existed was what Rome was doing, right?
No,
And
you
so
just said Rome.
they
Right.
they all wanted to model all after Rome. So for what Roman Catholics in our interpretation of this, right, is that we agree that papal primacy was recognized, right? But
People what?
papal primacy,
Oh yeah.
because papal primacy is a theological concept. Like there was no
I
question
mean
on
it.
the
Yeah, it's a
on how to
concept for
read
sure. Yeah.
on right. There was no question on actually how to read. When Jesus pulls Peter aside, right, and says, who do you say that I am? And he says, well, you're the Son of God. And then he says to Peter, like specifically, he say, no,
Yeah.
you
No
know,
one's arguing about
yeah,
that.
no one could have, no human, you've not heard these from human ears. It's God the Father that put this into you. And then he
Yeah.
says, upon you, I will build my church, and to you, I'm going to give the keys of the kingdom. There's no disagreement on how to interpret that
Of course,
for
it's not.
both
Yeah.
Eastern at this time, right? They all
Yeah.
agree that Pope Peter had some,
No, oh,
was favored by Jesus in this particular way as it
absolutely.
regarded
Peter
the
was favored.
authority
Yep.
of the other apostles, right? So
So
the
why
Roman
from?
Catholic argument is that papal primacy doesn't have meaning, especially when it comes to Canon 6, unless it presupposes that there is papal supremacy or universal jurisdiction. It's in virtue of universal jurisdiction, right? That a modeling after papal primacy can be done. So the Roman Catholic interpretation is, yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, as a normative protocol, it was canonized even at the First Ecumenical Council.
So why wasn't
It
it?
may not have been true de facto, but de jure, yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. I
Yeah.
mean that's a fair
So,
point. Like, yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Now
for
you get what I'm
thousand
getting at.
years, it technically wasn't true, but I mean, it was true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And you're going to
Yeah.
see this repeated, like throughout different points of
Bro,
history.
honestly,
I'm
you're
going to
you're
point you
talking to me
to
like I'm an enemy, but I'm closer to Roman Catholicism than I'm Orthodox. But you
I
keep
mean, dude,
attacking me
I,
like
I
I'm.
treat
Yeah.
Catholics like this as well. Like, especially when they start to get. I mean, I'm not
Yeah. I
saying
guess we'll go back to atheism. Fuck you. No,
that's
I'm just
fine.
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Is it
Eric
fine?
Ibarra,
I guess.
Ubi Petrus. Okay, so now I'm gonna post some debates for you. Okay, have you
I
heard
don't
of
care about
Eric?
debates.
Have
I've lived
you
on
heard? Well, you
debates
said
since
you
I
were a
was fucking
history buff,
15.
right? You said you're a history buff. I'm
I'm
trying to
not going to
post you
debate
some that.
history.
No, 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 no. So this is
I,
so.
I sorry, church history. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's what this is
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Because
Sorry, when you
I'm
say
not an
history, I'm
expert.
like, what?
I am not an expert in papal ecclesiology, like the history of papal
I'm not
ecclesiology.
either, bro.
Right. So but
You
you
keep
said
it.
you're a history buff. I think
I
you'll
am,
enjoy this. Here's a debate between Ubi Petrus
dude.
and
It's
Eric
fucking. You
Ibarra.
need to reevaluate your
Bro,
you know, how
bro,
you interact
I'm
with
not that kind of social
atheists.
person in the bars, man. Trust
Yeah,
me.
I know
Like
you're fucking
there's
autistic,
nothing
but that's a
that's
compliment.
fine. That's fine.
That's
I
fine.
live my
I
life the
live
way
in
that
the
I do.
I
I
live
do
in the
my business the
fucking.
way that I do. I'm not
I
some
know,
free
bro.
range Australian freaking kangaroo
I
guy.
know.
All right?
I know. You live
That's
your
just not my
life. It's
style.
fine.
It is what it is.
But I came here in good faith, and you're like, well, actually, if you think about this, then you're a fucking idiot. You attack me hardcore.
So
I
the
told
recording
you.
will be up.
I told you that I'm mostly leaning
Listen, I'm
towards
trying to
Roman
provide you, to the best of my ability, the
and
sources that
provide me
I
shit.
know
Fuck you.
of, right? So here's another one, maybe in your free time while you're working out, something like that.
Shut up.
You can listen into this. Um, just so you know, Eric Ibarra also debated Jay Dyer in the
Eric,
past with the same debate. So the framing of the debate was exactly the same in his debate with Jay Dyer
nice.
in the
Who
past. Yeah.
won?
So this
Who's
is a
next?
so this is a recent one that he had with another Eastern Orthodox
Hmm.
about
So,
papal
who won
jurisdiction.
according to you? What do you think?
I mean, I believe Eric Ibarra won. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say like,
Okay.
he's like.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, he was very well prepared. That's all I have to say. And he's pretty much an expert in like one like a. I don't want to say expert because there's so many smart people, and
Yeah,
he's
fair
just pretty
enough. Yeah,
preeminent. Like, I mean, he did his
yeah.
homework. He's very good at what he does. And he represented, his knowledge very well.
Do you
Um,
think Jay's an expert in early church, or
I mean, all I'm saying that is if you want to get into the nuts and bolts about trying to cite all the history that's available to us and all the cases and how, what we know of about what happened and all this
mm,
stuff,
mm.
watch this debate. That's all they freaking
Ah,
talk about. It's autistic.
awesome, bro.
It's papacy on autism. That's what it is. And it sounds like
Yeah.
that might be your cup of tea.
Abismo,
So,
can I get back to the facts? I apologize for the nonsense.
So
Um,
all I'm providing, yeah, all I can provide for
the
you is that's how, like, in a legalistic or
the
jurisdiction,
reason I
historical sense, the
came back
church
to
tries to justify
Christ
itself.
was
But
because of the autistic nonsense, right?
okay, so yeah, you might enjoy that better than uh better than the way that I do it.
I'm
So
I'm telling you, this is why I believe in Christ.
no, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not questioning all
You're
that.
like, oh
I
no,
I'm sure
sorry.
you're a good faith person, man. Like, trust me, dude. Like, there's all different personalities and stuff. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm sure, like, your journey's authentic. I'm pretty sure, like, the Holy Spirit's like bringing you to the right places. So, but as far as like the history and like that stuff, like those are just cold hard facts about reality, right? It has nothing to do with me or you, right? Like they pre-existed us, and it's our challenge to go and try to discover these things and learn them about our own and stuff. So because
Yeah,
our present church is not doing that, and our current church leadership have completely abdicated themselves of doing this in any
agreed.
honest way. So
That's
you know,
why I was convinced of orthodoxy. That's my whole point. Until I've been going through RCIA for the last 4 or 5 months. I'm saying until then, I was convinced of orthodoxy because the church history is being corrupted, like what you're saying. Yeah. The Pope is not the real Pope, so I'm struggling with this spiritually, genuinely.
do you have a Bible
Of
available?
course, I read it I pray every
All right.
night. I promise you, I'm serious. I go to Orthodox Divine Liturgy. I go to my local Catholic cathedral Sunday Mass. I'm on the path, but I'm struggling because I feel more of a spiritual connection with Orthodoxy, and my local quote unquote cathedral is fucking gay. I hate it. I don't like being there.
I agree.
Yeah, so what do I do? I'm not a troll, bro. I promise you. I was an atheist my like 15 years. I've literally just I had a crazy experience. I found Christ. It made an atheist to a Christian,
But
and
whatever reason, God chose at this time to try to bring you into the church. I don't know why.
I
All I can
agree.
say is it's a very difficult time to try to convince anyone, let alone
I
a quote
agree,
unquote
brother.
atheist.
Yep.
Like, I mean, imagine from my perspective, like,
Yeah. I'm
if
not,
I'm
and
supposed
that
to,
that was my whole point. I
like,
apologize.
I'm
I'm
not
not trying to
out there
convince you.
trying
Yeah.
to convert atheists because I know, like, what they're going to see is not something that's very authentic right now.
And I'm not trying to fucking say anything about
So,
Orthodox, all right? All I'm saying is all I know. Like, since I've become an
yeah, yeah,
atheist,
yeah.
that's my whole point. I'm not trying to be this guy who's trying to make points. I'm genuinely trying to figure it out, okay? I
So
promise.
apart from the representatives we currently have, and all the clown masses, and all of the rainbow masses, all I can tell you is that what the church has been trying to do, um, not, you know,
Yeah. Imagine being a convert and looking to your local cathedral and there's rainbow flags and
yeah.
lesbians. Like, what do you do? I'm asking you genuinely. This is what I've been
So,
struggling with. That's why do you think I've been going to Orthodox? I'm like, well, at least there's no lesbians. You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
being
yeah.
serious, dude. I'm not even
So,
joking.
right. So I guess like the jurisdictional stuff really does matter in the sense that I mean, it's hard at times, but yeah, I mean, like in my personal life, I just try to look past that stuff and try to focus on the
Huh.
essentials, right? Because the aesthetic stuff, that doesn't really matter to me. Sure,
It's not about aesthetics. It's about
I
like
prefer more
literal.
of a traditional mass, right? That reflects those things that we know to be true about the church. Um, but for jurisdictional reasons, because I believe in the authority of the magisterium of the Roman Catholic Church and the Pope, because historically it can be demonstrated, right, that it at least is consistent, and the interpret
Yeah,
the interpretation of papal primacy still holds and is convincing for me. I don't believe it's circular or contradictory in any way, even if
I
people
know.
abuse that power, because
Yeah,
people have always abused that power. We've had heretical popes in the past, like Pope Honorius. For all intents and purposes, he would be considered a formal heretic because he actually tried to teach monophysitism while he was still in office. They declared him after he died as such, as a formal heretic. So what
yeah.
this
I'm not
means
talking
is
about
that,
heretic stuff.
yeah, and this happened before
I'm talking about current day.
Robert Bellarmine and all this stuff. Right. So technically speaking, and this all happened before the declaration of papal infallibility. So in papal
No, I'm talking
infallibility,
about current day, brother.
yeah. So, but
Look, I want to
I
be Roman
understand. So
Catholic. I want to
that's
be,
what
but I'm struggling.
that's
This is
why I'm
my whole
bringing
point.
up like Pope Honorius and stuff. Like for all intents and purposes, it's possible for a pope to be a formal heretic and still hold the office.
No, it's not.
It is.
Not post Vatican II or Vatican One. Of course, it's not.
No, even post Vatican One, it's possible. Do you know why? And
What?
that's what
What?
this is
Oh,
what I was
sorry.
trying to
Sorry,
get
my
to,
bad.
right?
Sorry, my
That's
bad.
why I was trying to bring up Vatican One, because even before papal infallibility was declared, there was Pope Honorius, and he was considered to be a formal heretic,
That was
which is
before,
why
yeah.
he was anathematized by the
But he
next
was,
pope.
but he wasn't infallible at the time. That's my point.
No, that's not the way papal infallibility works.
Oh no, papal infallibility is current and former. Correct. Yeah, you're right.
Correct. Now you get it.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I,
church,
I
the thing
understand.
is like the thing about the way that development of doctrine works is that there are certain things that are part of the deposit of faith that the church has always held to be true, whether orthodoxy or by practice, orthopraxy. Because as you know, like the church doesn't just believe in the authority of just said scripture alone, right? Nor faith alone. It's
Of
both
course not.
scripture
We're
and
not
tradition
Protestant.
and the
Yeah,
magisterium, right? So there's
that's
not
why I'm
only,
not Protestant, bro.
yeah, right. So the fact that the church declares, right, definitively from an ecumenical council that this is what papal infallibility means, right, doesn't mean that in operation it didn't exert itself in that way or have that jurisdictional authority in the past. Case in point, right? Like for Roman Catholics, the first seven ecumenical councils, the Pope was not present there, right, in person. He didn't even start a lot of those councils. They were opened up by the emperors.
There was no pope in the first seven.
There was a
To
lot
be
of
fair,
political.
there was no pope. That's my whole point.
There's always been a pope. That's what papal primacy is. The pope
Yeah,
just
but
simply means
there was no primacy, bro. I'm
no,
telling you.
people referred to the seat of Peter as the pope.
Sure, but there was no primacy. That's my point.
Okay,
And that's
no,
what I'm
no, no, no.
struggling with.
There
Yeah.
was no defined papal supremacy like at Vatican One, but there was papal primacy. We just went over this earlier.
Yes. First among equals. Correct. Orthodox believe in that. That's my
Correct.
point.
So then why did you just say there was no papal primacy?
Because there wasn't primacy in the sense as in they were the pope of all of the church. They weren't the leader of the church. That's all I was saying.
So again, if that's not true, then why in Canon 6 of even the First Ecumenical Council, when they're setting up the other metropolitans, they're modeling it after Rome? That's a tacit
They
recognition,
can
right?
model it
Of a
after Rome, but
jurisdictional, it's
it's
not
not
just a, see,
supremacy.
no, it's not just a symbolic interpretation. It's literally a jurisdiction. They're applying a juridical norm, a normative
What
protocol
year
in a
was that?
juridical context after the juridical protocol, after the
Yeah,
normative protocol that existed with the Bishop of Rome. So
amazing.
it's
I'm
not a
on board.
symbolic, oh, we're just gonna tip our hat to Pope. We're just going
No,
to tip our hat to the seat of
dude,
Peter. That's not what it
like I told
was.
you, I'm a
It was a
catechumen in the Roman
normative
Catholic Church.
protocol.
I'm asking you genuinely. I'm not arguing against you. I'm a catechumen.
But what I'm saying is that this is the Roman Catholic position. That this
I
normative
understand.
protocol of universal jurisdiction can be demonstrated even with it to be consistent with history.
Sure.
People can
What? So,
abuse this. People can abuse this. Popes have abused this, both materially, through heresy, both materially and formally. In the case of Pope Honorius, he was a formal heretic even before the declaration of papal infallibility.
of
So when you
course.
get to Vatican I, papal infallibility has a very, very narrow context. It has to papal infallibility declared from the seat of Peter or ex cathedra with the church.
But ex cathedra was very late. That wasn't ex cathedra post schism.
So let me ask you something. Bust ups. Are you aware that there
No, I'm
is
asking. I'm
no
asking.
but bust ups? So who do you
Yo,
believe the head of the church is?
Jesus.
Correct. Okay, great answer.
Oh, well, first answer correct. Bing, bing, bing.
All right. Is there anything outside of papal infallibility that can be considered more infallible than papal infallibility?
Anything outside of papal infallibility that can be considered more infallibility? I don't understand.
Is it that you don't understand or you don't know?
No, I literally don't understand.
You don't
It's like a
understand the
double.
question.
Yeah, it's a double negative. But yeah,
It's a double negative. So, is there
I don't
anything that you.
understand. I'm being honest. I do not understand. Yeah.
Okay, so the question was, is there
Is there
anything.
anything outside?
No, no, no. Is there anything other than papal
Yeah,
infallibility that is more infallible than papal infallibility?
that doesn't make sense at all.
Well, it doesn't make sense that
Logically,
something is more infallible.
yeah, no, because infallible's not a more or less than. Yeah,
It
infallible's
could
an
be,
ultimate.
well, I mean, it could be a difference in degree,
No,
couldn't you
because
say?
something is either or, right? Something is either infallible or it's not. There is no more or less than infallible.
Well, okay, so the way papal infallibility decline or is defined at Vatican I is very limited. It's not a universal infallibility.
Okay,
So yeah,
so what?
it's a different degree of infallibility
Oh,
than
so
other
something's
things
gonna
in
be
the
more or
church that
less
enjoy
infallible
a
than others.
more
Okay.
universal or a higher degree of infallibility.
Is something infallible or not? That it's either or. Like it's a
What do
philosophical.
you mean if is something infallible or not?
It is or it isn't. It's
So how do
very
you, right,
simple.
well now this is starting to beg the question, what do you
I'm
understand by
not
papal
begging anything.
infallibility?
No, I'm saying no, no. You're making the claim. I'm saying it is or it isn't. There is no halfway
Okay, we're just going to
kind
go to
of.
Vatican One.
Okay. It's weird. You're arguing against me like I'm trying to be Catholic, and all you're doing is trying to convince
No,
me
I,
not to
I,
be.
I actually think you're a troll. I really don't think you're an
Dude,
RCIA. I
I
think you're
swear on.
being a troll at this point.
Okay, well,
Or maybe, maybe your Catholicism really isn't serious, or your
I've been
approach to
going to
Christianity,
RCIA for the last
your
4
approach to
months.
being converted, maybe it just isn't serious at all.
I think
So
maybe
like,
you
you
are
could you
convinced
could
that
be
you
just
know
trolling
everything.
yourself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, buddy. Brother, I promise you I'm not a troll. Um, everything I do is in good faith, and I apologize if it comes across as in bad faith.
So Catholic Australia. First of all, I'll just post you this so you can read this. So it literally says, after debates and infusion of German theology in those days of moderating and scholarly influence, Pastor Eternus, the first dogmatic
What?
constitution of the
Okay, so
Church, concludes
you're
with the
sending me an
definition that
ABC article. Okay.
The Roman Pontiff, when he speaks ex cathedra, that is, when in the discharge of the office of pastor and teacher of all Christians by virtue of his apostolic authority, he defines the doctrine regarding faith or morals to be held by the universal church is, by the divine assistance promised to him in the blessed Peter, possess that of infallibility with which the divine Redeemer willed that his church will be endowed with a defining doctrine regarding faith or morals, and that therefore such definitions of the Roman Pontiff are themselves and are of themselves and not from the consent of the church irreformable.
Okay.
So
So you quoted
hold
a
on,
national.
your Catholic.org, right, of
You say
Australia.
your? Who's your?
Yeah, well, this is from
Your.
Catholic.org Australia, right?
Yeah.
The
So yeah.
Pope can teach
Right,
infallibly when exercising the Petrine office under specific
bro. Why?
circumstances and only in the area of faith and morals. He cannot teach infallibly on matters of science, politics, economics, etc., even as these areas raise moral issues. You get it. It's a limited infallibility. So,
What the fuck?
yeah,
I never
so here's the
said there
thing.
wasn't. What are you talking about, bro?
So when you say, right, you're saying that, oh, there can't be a difference in degree of infallibility because infallibility is either or. It's either black and white.
It literally is. Yeah.
He's either fallible or infallible, right? But I'm saying
Correct. Yeah.
Vatican I does not universalize the Pope's infallibility. The character of infallibility as defined, right, in the
Okay.
Pope is not a universal infallibility over everything.
How are you
It's
deriving the
a
Pope's
limited
infallibility?
infallibility over just just issues concerning faith and morals within the church when he speaks ex cathedra with the church.
It's crazy because I'm literally 90%. I'm on your
So what I'm
side, but
trying to say is
you're convincing me not to
there's a
be.
lot
You're convincing me not to be.
there's a lot presupposed in
No,
what the church
all of your
means
position is
by the
presupposed.
Pope
Yeah.
is infallible
Your whole position is presupposed. Yeah.
that it
Correct.
actually constrains papal infallibility.
I
So
would I want to be Catholic, but everything you say is
what this means, bust ups, is that there can
yeah.
be degrees of infallibility,
All
of
right, how many?
which they're taking a preference or distinction in what kind of degree of infallibility the Pope has.
Yo, that's crazy.
It's
Ask a
a
Catholic.
very
And
limited
this guy here
infallibility.
is now like convincing me to not be Catholic. That's wild.
That's fine. You maybe Catholicism isn't for you, bust ups.
Oh, I thought it was for everyone.
That's actually not true. Jesus died for the
No?
many. Yeah, Jesus
Yeah.
died for the many. We just don't know.
Yeah. Well,
God,
I go to the
in the
cathedral
Old
every
Testament, bust
Sunday.
ups in the
I
Old
pray.
Testament, but bust
Yeah, yeah,
ups
right.
in the Old
No,
Testament,
you know best,
God
say,
favors and disfavors particular individuals. That's just the way it is.
bro. That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's the truth.
Yeah. Okay.
And the church has consistently taught, right, semi predestination. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Semi.
Yep.
Semi.
So there's a
No, it
predestination of the
hasn't.
elect, and for
No,
those that are not
the
elect,
Catholic Church
God
has never
chooses to
taught
pass over.
predestination.
God just
That's a,
chooses over to pass
that's a
over.
heresy.
We
That's a
don't
heresy.
know. It's not a heresy at all. That's what the church teaches.
No, it doesn't.
It's always taught this.
Incorrect.
You're incorrect.
You're incorrect.
If your standard, right, if the reason why you can't make a decision is because you have unexamined intellectual questions which you're too lazy to actually investigate for yourself, but that's the criterion that you're setting for yourself, all I can say is maybe Catholicism just isn't for you.
I think if you think predestination is Catholic, I think you're wrong.
The Catholic Church has always taught the predestination of the elect.
So it doesn't matter what you do, right?
So the thing is
Basically,
Calvinism, their their version of predestination is considered a heretical version, which is double predestination. That the elect are predestined and those who go to hell are predestined. And how do we know that there are those that are predestined to hell? Because there are those that are predestined to heaven, because there are those that are predestined to hell. That's the
how do you know?
rationale of John Calvin. The church has never taught that, but what the church has taught, right?
Wait, hold on.
It's a
Why are you talking about Calvin?
so
You're Catholic. That's
it's a
weird.
dogma. It's the dogma of the Catholic Church, right? That
Yeah.
the saved or the elect are predestined by God for salvation, and those who are not of the elect are just simply passed over by God. So God just chooses not to give them grace.
So it's
No one is
predetermined. Hold on.
predestines. No one predestines, but based on a person's actions and their
You said it's
willingness to cooperate with
predetermined, yeah?
him, God can choose to pass over them. That's has been the
Of course he
consistent
can.
teaching of the
So,
church.
but you're saying it's
So,
predetermined, yeah?
what's predetermined?
I'm asking you. You said it was predetermined.
That God passes over them?
Well, God selects who comes to heaven, or whatever you're
Correct.
saying.
Correct. Those of the elect are
That's
predestined to be saved. That is the Catholic
whoa.
Church. That's a dogma
Oh,
of
okay.
faith. That's a dogma.
Yeah. So there's no free will, right?
No, there is free will because there are those that God chooses to pass his grace over because they
So
choose not
God
to accept
chooses
him.
who can act freely in there. Okay. All right.
Well, no, I mean the way that we would say it is there are those by their free will that choose not to cooperate with God's grace. So
But
God
God already knows whether they will or will not.
that depends on the person's actions.
Okay. So someone like me who's like was an
So I mean this is
atheist.
right,
Hold
right,
on,
right.
hold
So
on,
so
hold
so
on, hold on.
here's the thing.
No,
You're
no, let me talk.
conflating the
No,
divine proposition
I'm literally
with
reading the
natural
doctrine.
philosophy, right? So
No,
so
I'm not. I'm
it seems
trying to
like you
read the
need to clear.
doctrine.
I mean, but the thing is
This
since
is
you're
crazy. You're a
wrong on both
Catholic.
account bust ups because you're wrong on both
Do
accounts.
you want
It
me
seems
to
like
come
you're
to Christ and live
confused
forever?
not
Do
only
you want
on
me
what the
to?
church
Do
teaches
you want me to
because
live
clearly before
forever
you
with
were
Christ?
saying that what I was saying
Yeah.
wasn't Catholic,
I do.
but secondly at the same time
Thank you.
you
I
have a
want to live with
deeper
Christ
seated
forever.
you
Thank you.
have a deeper seated philosophical problem
I
here.
have no.
You have no way of justifying how it is that we know we
I'm
have free will.
trying to find the way, but you're like, no, 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 no. Imagine Abismo.
You
You
know what
are
you're
a
like,
saint.
bust ups? You're like an undisciplined child, right?
Abismo.
And
Abismo. You're
you're
a
a
saint.
fully grown fucking
You
adult now.
Abismo. Abismo. You're a
You're a
saint.
fully
And
fucking
I,
grown
yes,
adult
correct,
now, and
correct.
you don't even
Abismo.
have
You're
the discipline enough yourself to
exactly.
even look at any of these issues with
Abismo.
any
Correct.
degree of critical
You are
certainty
a
or
saint, and I'm a
seriousness.
child, and
I am not a
I'm
saint at
crawling
all.
toward. I'm
I am
crawling
not a
towards
saint
you.
at
I'm
all, trust
asking
me.
you, Abismo, how do I get into heaven? I'm giving you
I
the
can't
example.
tell you this. There's nothing that I can say or
Well,
do.
you just pointed to the Catholic Church's
The only
predestination.
person that can save you, bust ups, is Jesus, and that's it.
Yeah,
I can't do
exactly.
shit
I
for you.
agree. So how do I even get to that point?
So
I'm asking you,
no,
Abismo.
don't you understand? Stop asking me that question.
Abismo,
I
please,
can't answer that for you.
please. How do I read the
The
gospel? You just
church,
provided it to
all
me.
the church can provide you, bust ups, is access to Christ, and that's it.
Abismo, you provided me the access. How do I now
I am
interpret
not
it?
the one that is providing you the
Abismo,
access
please.
in any authoritative sense, sir. No, I reject that.
You reject the
I'm
gospel?
just a fellow
What?
traveler.
I
You see,
am
here's
too.
the
I'm
thing,
asking
bust
you.
ups.
How
Bust
do I
ups.
read it?
Do you
How
even
do I
have a
read it?
girlfriend, man?
How do I read it?
No,
How
bust
do I
ups. Do
read
you
it,
even have a
Abismo?
girlfriend?
Do you? How do I read the gospel, please? I obviously
I swear,
I'm
you've just
fallible.
been trolling me for the past hour, man.
I haven't been trolling you. I've been
You're a troll. No,
I promise I'm
I
not. I
genuinely believe you're
promise.
a troll.
I don't care what you believe. I promise. Tell me how to read the Bible, right? The Catholic Church's
You're
concept.
just
Hold
gish
on.
galloping around now.
The Catholic
You're
Church's
gish galloping
concept
around.
of
Bust ups. What was your
predestination
first
is
question?
God's plan to give people eternal
Bust
life
ups.
through Jesus
Bust ups.
Christ and the Holy Spirit.
What was the
The
first question
Catholic
that you had?
Church allows
Hold
for a
on, bust ups.
variety of views on
If you bust ups,
predestination,
if you can't,
but there are some
if you
key
can't
points that are
answer,
firm.
if you are you just gonna keep talking over me?
I'm reading the fucking gospel, bro.
All right, so bust ups. If you can't answer right this question, where did this conversation begin? What was the first question you asked? If you can't answer that, you're just gonna stay muted.
Why are you gay?
All right, you're just a troll.
Was that really his first question?
No,
Okay.
I mean
The
I
amount of,
recorded the conversation.
the
I'll
amount
put
of
it up
leeway,
later. You know, like I used to
the amount
think
of
he
leeway you
was.
give these
I
type of
used to
people,
think
man,
he was
dude.
pretty genuine, but like it's pretty clear he's just been trolling the whole time. So.
Yeah, man, the amount of rope you give him is unreal, bro. Like literally, like you can just clearly tell this guy's a nut, yeah, like a numb nut. That's
Did you just hear Chris?